Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Okay, and okay, again, the mechanics are I don't look at the images until we talk about them, and then I kind of go, okay. So I have to describe it. It's a logo, and there are three sort of stage lights set up in the sort of the foreground above. And then the field on the background is one yellow talking bubble. It says yes, ... And then there's another speech bubble, and it says and oh, sorry, both the words are in capital letters. So it's like yes, and. So I would say this has something to do with improv. What is this? What is this image? Okay.
You're right. It's definitely to do with improv. I perform improv, have done for at least 15 years. And I know you're interested in improv. It's a form of theatre where a team of players together create scenes on the spot with no preparation, no script, usually based on random, unpredictable suggestions from the audience. And it can often be funny, but it doesn't necessarily have to be funny. It's about storytelling and relationships between characters and situations. And I've been performing improv for about 15 years. I perform with an English language team here in Hong Kong, although unfortunately we didn't get to perform much during COVID. And the yes and message in the image is the number one principle of improv that improvisers, performers around the world know and learn probably in their first lesson of improv. It's the main principle that guides improv performers, enables us to do what we do together as a team without a script. And what it means is we approach what we do together and how we interact with each other with a yes and mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that means whatever our scene partner says or does, or whatever happens in the room, or maybe someone laughs or we hear a police siren out in the street, whatever happens, our job, our invitation is to yes and.
Yep.
It's a verb, to yes and. And that doesn't necessarily mean we agree or like what the person says or what happened. It means we're at least willing to open our minds and be open to accepting that it's the reality of what's happening in front of our nose, and accepting that another player, another person has the right to express their opinion, to offer an idea, and that we're curious to listen.
Yes. So now it makes me very self-conscious about actually the podcast format. Very much is a kind of yes and experience. It's because I don't know what's going to happen, and then you give this to me, whatever the image is, and I'm like, okay, and it's really funny because some people have mentioned that. I don't really ask questions. What I do is I hear what the person says, and then I start talking, and then the person says, I think there's a question there. And then they yes and me right back, really.
Because the and part of the equation is then I respond. So it's like a ping pong match back and forth. You make an offer, I respond. I make an offer, you respond. And, we don't have a script in real life. We don't have a script for this podcast. So we're improvising in every moment. I don't know what the next sentence out of my mouth is going to be.
Yeah, I know. That's what the sort of the jeopardy and the hazard and the fun of it, really.
The fun and the exploration, the delight of it, really.
Okay, Kay, I have to ask though. I mean, like in Hong Kong, like is the scene big? Like, how do you keep busy in this? Like what is this? What is the community like? It's
not my full-time job. And the scene in Hong Kong is quite small. There are a few teams around that perform, some more regularly than others. Some do things online, which my team doesn't do. And there's a small audience for it in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
It's not very well known, but we're building it.
So roughly how many, when you say a team, like how many people in your group at the moment?
At the moment, there's about maybe 5 or 6. We're in the process of training up some potential new members.
Right, right. And so what attracted you to improv? I mean, for me, it was when I early university going and just like splitting gut because it was so funny. But then, so what about you? What was the attraction?
Well, I've always been an actor since a teenager. Since I was a teenager, I was in a youth theatre group in Adelaide, in Australia, where I grew up. I was in a youth theatre group for about 4 or 5 years. And so I had a little bit of exposure to improvisation with that, because we devised our own plays with direction from professional actors. And then I studied a year of drama at Adelaide University in my first year at university, and I had some exposure to improv there. And then I performed in scripted theatre for a long time as a hobby in Adelaide and here in Hong Kong as well. And then I started performing stand-up comedy, which is very carefully scripted and rehearsed.
Sure.
And while I was doing that, I saw a team performing and eventually started going to their shows, and then was invited to join their practice sessions. And then I joined that team. And I decided very quickly that I like improv a lot better than stand-up, because I don't have to memorize a script. And it's a team sport.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, but it's interesting to call it a sport. Okay. So walk us into this world of improv of just like, so how many times do you guys get together?
At the moment, once a week.
Nice.
On a Monday evening.
Okay.
And yes, it's a sport. Like, if you play soccer or football or whatever brand of sport, you practice. There's rules of the game.
Yep.
But on the day of the match, you don't know what's going to happen. You have to adapt in the moment to what's happening. They're improvising.
Yep.
So improv, you could call it a sport, because it's playful, it's fun. It involves a team cooperating with each other with a goal.
Yeah.
It's a sport. Yeah.
So how, the question of chance and the question of happy accidents and strange tangents, I would imagine that in improv, in a way, the more outrageous and different and off the wall it is, sometimes the more entertaining it can be and surprising. So how much of improv is mental flexibility?
A lot, yes. And it doesn't have to be off the wall crazy stuff. It can be very real, authentic truth between two characters that we create in the moment. So I remember listening once to an interview with Robin Williams, and the interviewer asked him, "Oh, how do you do that? You must have a really quick mind." And he said, no, it's not about that. Or I'm paraphrasing him, but it was something like, it's about letting go of that logical voice in the back of your head that's saying, no, they won't like that, not good enough, all the judgmental stuff in the back of your head, the back of your mind. And trusting your impulse, your instincts, your
Right.
maybe a sensation that's happening somewhere in your body that inspires you to walk a certain way or say a certain thing. So trusting your gut instinct, and so it doesn't have to be funny.
Yeah. Okay. So like the podcast format, in a way, like being on stage, I don't know what's going to happen. And I had no idea that on this Monday afternoon, we would go in this direction. And now I am totally fascinated. Okay.
And there are other principles, I guess we could call, not rules, but principles of improv. But yes, and is certainly the first one.
Oh, for sure.
But there's other things like one that I really like is make your teammates look good.
Of course, yes.
Make teammates look good. So it's not me being the star of the show and getting all the laughs and hogging the stage to tell funny jokes. It's about we support each other.
Yep.
Again, because we don't have a script, we don't know what's going to happen. So we support each other. If someone does something unexpected or makes what we think is a mistake, we have to go with
Yep.
the new reality that they've
You have
created.
to. Yeah.
And or if someone, their brain goes blank and they've got a deer in the headlight, center stage,
you have to help them out.
jump in and rescue them and support them and make them look good. Yeah, and what I like about that is that while I'm doing that for my teammates, they're doing the same for me.
Absolutely. So name a time when you had a performance or you had a moment on stage that transcended in a way, where it's like everything gelled, and all of a sudden you kind of looked at each other and you said, like, where did that come from? And oh my God.
Well,
every day.
It's hard to pinpoint a particular one, because when you're with players that you've played with before, you kind of develop a mind reading ability.
Yep.
You get to know them. And so there's been so many moments like that.
Oh, wow.
I really can't pick a particular one.
Okay, I'll make it easier.
It is magic when it happens. Yeah.
Okay, what about the flip side, where it just bombed? Maybe you could remember that one, where it was just like, oh, fuck.
I was performing at an improv festival. I think it was in Manila in the Philippines.
Wow.
And we were like in the Wild West, riding horses, and my teammate said something and I just froze. And then the scene ended. So, yeah. And that happened. That does happen.
Oh, for sure.
And our job is to support each other. Yeah.
Okay. Now that we're talking about it and we're here in this moment, yes, and let's move on to the next photo.
I was going to suggest that we do a little experiment, a little game of very quick little game of playing yes and. Are you up for that?
Sure.
So the way it works is, let's say we're good friends, we've known each other for a long time, and we have known each other for a long time, and we're planning our next holiday. We're discussing where we should go on our next holiday. And so I will make a suggestion, and your job is to respond. So we're going to go back and forth. And after I make the initial suggestion, every line will start with the phrase enthusiastic, yes, and. So, yes, and.
Okay.
And then you add something to what I say.
Okay.
So if I say, Ran, we should go on holiday to Japan.
Yeah. Yes, and let's also go check out what happened in Fukushima.
Yes, and I remember what happened last time we went to Fukushima.
Yes, and that's when we were trying to eat shark fin soup, and there's a massive explosion.
Yes, and you saved me. It was close to certain death, and you saved me.
Yeah, and but then I got really nasty, and I just chucked you back into the ocean because I wanted to see if you knew how to swim.
Yes, and I was rather annoyed about that.
Yes, and luckily I paid for all the therapy you needed.
Yes, and that's what convinced me to divorce you.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's true. And I'm keeping all the money.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you. And what that does is it gets your mind out of that groove. Oftentimes the rut that people have of saying, yes, but that'll never work because...
Right. And it's kind of like an exquisite corpse, in terms of the like poetic writing, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to say yes, and let's look at the next image.
Yes, let's.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. shooting it